So just basically, we're going to talk about some basic things because people talk about how does cannabis affect government and what all comes with that and how a bill becomes a law. This is all very important because we can't talk about wanting to expand cannabis and getting more Black men particularly involved with it unless we know what actually has to happen for this to occur. So we're going to talk about how a bill becomes a law. We're also going to talk about actually researching a bill. Where is it at? How to look at where it's at in the committee. And we're going to look at some bills that I've introduced that have to do with cannabis and also about the hemp industry and about potentially having a lobby day. So I won't hold you guys too long because sometimes this can be boring and unboring at the same time. So the first thing is that how does a bill become a law? It's always a big question to ask. The first thing you have to understand is that we have these wonderful lawyers. It's probably about 40 of them, and they're called our legislative service commissions. They're a group of lawyers that basically all they do is write the bill. So if I say, hey, I want to make the sky blue, they will legally, in legal terms, write it out to make it a bill that's legal, that actually makes sense legally. I'm not a lawyer by trade, and most of my colleagues at the State House are not lawyers, because that's also another question I get from a lot of people. Hey, you're not a lawyer, how can you make laws? It's because we have this wonderful staff of nonpartisan people that actually write the bills itself, and we will actually give them the idea and what the bill should be including, and they will actually expand it to make sure that it's legal within itself. So they're called LSC. If you have a bill idea, you can almost go to almost any legislator, no matter if they're in the Senate or in the House, and say, hey, can you go to LSC and have them draft this bill for me? Most of us who, if we're a decent person, we will have no issues drafting that for you. So after it's draft, and is what part of it that was not included on here, we would normally have interest party meetings. Interest party meetings are so important because during an interest party meeting, you will take it to everyone in theory that will be affected by that. So if you're talking about cannabis, you would take it to patients, you would take it to distributors and producers and manufacturers. You also take it to people who are on possibly the medical cannabis board and get people's input so we can make sure that when the bill actually is introduced in committee, there is as little feedback or pushback as possible. Once you get done with the actual interest party meeting is when you actually introduce the bill to the State House. We have this clerk's office, and that's when they actually put a bill number on it. It goes from being like just a draft to an actual bill. So a bill is actually when you have actual number assigned to the bill. Here in the state of Ohio, we have about 700 bills that have been introduced since this General Assembly started. Our General Assemblies always start in January of the odd year. So we're about to be at the end of our General Assembly right now. So after it's been introduced, you will actually go and have it introduced into a committee. So one of the bills that we're going to discuss with mine has been introduced to the Health Committee. And so when you're looking at a bill, it would be introduced. The chairman would decide when they want the bill for the first hearing, which is always the sponsor testimony. And the sponsor testimony is literally the committee hearing where the legislator, it could be a representative or a senator, depending on what chamber the person's in, actually has a committee hearing. This committee hearing is just for them. No one else gets to normally come speak at it except for the legislator. And then we will have proponent and opponent testimony. If you're lucky, you will have a chairperson that will allow you to have the sponsor testimony as well as a proponent and the opponent testimony all at one time. But if you have a more traditional chairperson, which we have a lot of traditional conservative chairs at the State House, they will make you have at least three hearings, where one will be the sponsor testimony, which is just the legislator. And then the second one would be the proponent, which is people who are in agreement with the bill. And then you have the third one would be opponent, which are people who are against the bill. You cannot control who comes and speaks on behalf because the State House is the people's house. So almost anybody could come, but normally as a representative, we normally like to try to make sure we are controlling the situation by bringing as many people for proponent testimony and controlling who does not come with opponent testimony. So after a bill actually gets voted out of the committee, then it goes for a floor vote in that chamber. So during that time period, me being a representative, I have to almost kind of go whip the votes. I have to go talk to as many legislators as possible and try to convince them to vote for this bill. This is why bills take so long, because there are 99 of us in the House. And if anybody tried to do any type of family project, even if you have 3 or 4 people in your family, you know it's a lot to make a decision. So imagine trying to do that with 99 people who are from all different parts of the state of Ohio. So for instance, I just had a bill that became a law earlier this year. It took almost 6 months for this bill to become a law, which is considered a short time frame. I have colleagues who have bills that have been in circulation for years and they still have not become a law because of the process of just trying to convince people that your bill is some bill that they want to vote on. So once the bill is passed out of one chamber, particularly the chamber that I'm in, which is the House, then it moves over to the Senate to repeat this whole process over again. And sometimes that part becomes very tedious, but normally if it's passed in one chamber, unless there is some bureaucracy where somebody doesn't like someone, which is the honest truth, your bill normally will pass without drama. But if you have some drama, they will stop your bill because people are petty at the State House. So once it's passed out of both chambers, the House and the Senate, then it actually gets signed into law by the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate. And then last but not least, you have it signed into law by the Governor, which is the most important part because that's when the bill actually becomes a law. We stop seeing bill, blah, blah, blah. We say, hey, it's this law. And then it becomes part of the Ohio Revised Code. So, and if you're wondering like, hey, I'm not trying to make a bill into law, there's a bill that I'm looking into. This is where we get into the legislative research. It's really easy to figure out how you can actually find out about a bill. You go to ohiohouse.gov. And this is the same website that we all use. Like there's no like secret website that us legislators use. People always think that we have like some secret website of information. We use the same website that the public uses. So once you go to ohiohouse.gov, there is a tab right here at the top, right here, called legislation. Once you click on that, you will actually go and see a legislation tab where you will see a search engine. You can actually put the bill number in there, but if you can't remember it, like if you're looking for cannabis, you can just put the word cannabis in there and it will literally pull up anything from this General Assembly or any past General Assemblies that has to do with cannabis. So again, for those, because I know I'm really good with repetition, when you go to ohiohouse.gov, you click on the icon at the top, the tab at the top, it says legislation. It will give you a search bar, and then you will click on that area by putting in a bill number or a word that's associated with the bill that you are looking for. So even if a bill has become a law, you actually will see it there too, and you can look at the whole process of where it's been and all of this information. You can find the contact information for the legislator if you want to get in contact with that person. You can see where it is in committee. You can actually look at the testimony